This is Community Spotlight for TVC 22 for Clarence Rockland. We're here tonight on this beautiful May evening to break ground for the new joint firefighter and first responder unit that's going to be built here in Clarence Rockland, right next to City Hall. In 2 days, there's going to be a similar event in Bourget. And this marks the culmination of a number of years of planning initiated by former Fire Chief Pierre Sabourin. People from different units, such as firefighters and ambulance, both trying to arrive at an accident site and provide first responder services. Then both parties need to know how to coordinate their activities. Otherwise, professionals tend to trip over each other, and that's not a pretty sight to see. So eventually they started realizing that it was time to put the structures together and not only the training together. And in the last few years, several Ontario municipalities have taken the plunge and combined their firefighting and ambulance services into a same physical structure. And here we are in Clarence, Rockland, and we are doing the same thing.
I would like to invite you, Mr. Guy Desjardins, Mayor of our great city, to say a few words.
Cette semaine est très importante pour la cité de Clarence Rockland. Nous sommes ici rassemblés ce soir pour la première de 2 cérémonies de pelleté de terre, annonçant le début de la construction des nouvelles casernes de Bourget et de Rockland. Notre communauté est fière de la présence de la famille ici ce soir. These fire halls, combined with the United Counties of Prescott and Russell Paramedic Station, will provide our residents with improved service levels by providing a large, safer working condition for both services.
Now I'd like to invite Mr. François Saint-Amour, President of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell.
We have to take this opportunity when we're building a new when they are building a new building that we move in and provide some paramedic services. We know this region will need the services either today or tomorrow for the future, and I appreciate Clarence Rockland letting us to be partners in that project. Thank you.
I would like to invite now Chief Brian Wilson, Director of Protection Services, to say a few words.
I want to thank everyone again for being here this evening to witness this historic occasion for the city of Clarence Rockland. Over the years, the fire service has evolved. Our new station in Rockland will house our emergency operations center, and our station in Bourget will play host to our new regional training center, serving the needs of almost 1,000 firefighters across eastern Ontario. We all look forward to welcoming you at the grand opening of these new facilities in 2019.
And last but not least, I would like to invite Mr. Michel Chrétien, Directeur des services d'urgence du Comté Uni de Prescott-Russell, Director of Emergency Services of Prescott-Russell.
So thank you very much, mostly for the partnership. I think this is going to go a long way. I think it's the first one that we have established, and I think it's going to set precedent for other municipalities. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Merci, mesdames et messieurs.
And here we have Michel Chrétien, who is the head of paramedic services for the United Counties of Prescott-Russell, who has been instrumental in bringing together these two operations. Michel, please tell us, have you been involved with this since the beginning?
Yes, so it started about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more, but actually 2 years ago when we actually started to really talk about it and trying to find out how we could work together and create a partnership where we can both have our spaces that we required for our services and be together. So that's about 2 years ago, and gradually over the last 2 years we have come up to today where we officially announced that we are going to build both here in Rockland, and this will be an expansion for us in Rockland. We usually have the space for 2 ambulances. We'll have space now for 4, even maybe 5. And in Bourget, we actually did not have a station there, so our staff were outside in their vehicle. Now we're going to have a station for them to be able to go inside and take care of the vehicle and prepare for the next call.
Okay. Now, I notice that everybody is talking about space, but there's another dimension that's much more important. And I have to tell you, some weeks ago I was driving along on my way to Orleans, and I happened to be driving with a former paramedic, military. And there was an accident. There was a car rolled over in the middle ditch. And cars had pulled over on the side, and she immediately pulled over, jumped out of the car to go and help. Behind us, there were 2 other former military paramedics who jumped out of their car. By the time they got to the other side, ambulance were arriving, fire were arriving, police were arriving, and everybody was tripping over each other. And I think this is one of the problems where you don't have these people working together and nobody knows who's doing what when.
Well, basically, we've been working hard at that. It's an organized chaos.
Yeah,
Basically,
everyone's a professional.
Yeah, and you know, by living beside each other, this will give us an opportunity after an event to do some debriefing and to work collectively together so that we can both improve our services and both, at the end of the day, render better care for the individual, the patient, or the person in a crisis.
Well, when you've got all these A-type personalities going in there and everyone's trying to do their job and not knowing who else can do it, you need to have some coordination.
Definitely, and I think everybody knows their roles. You know, over the years, you know, this system has evolved over the last 10, 20, 50, 30 years to a point now where everybody knows their roles and responsibilities. Doesn't mean we may not have a little hick once in a while, but that's why we like living beside each other, and we can talk about those, debrief, find out how we can do better the next time. But I would tell you that generally speaking, these services work very well together on the street.
Yes. Well, we are just so lucky. When I saw the turnout at that one incident, and you probably see those every day, many times a day, it's heartwarming in a way.
It is. It's nice to see the teams gel together, the team understanding their roles and responsibilities and knowing where their workload starts and where it stops. But there's also some crossover where we work out with each other and work really well together.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad that you're here, that everybody's here, and that this is actually happening, because as Clarence Rockland grows, we're certainly going to need your services, and we'll be counting on you. As everybody does, takes it for granted that it's going to be there for them when they need it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the nice thing about this system. People don't understand how it works, don't understand where it's at, but when they need it, it's there. So
Right.
that's a nice thing about this system.
Well, thank you, Michel Chrétien. And we may not see you again because you're going to be behind the scenes making sure everything runs smoothly. But it certainly was nice seeing you here today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All the best. And here we have Fire Chief for Clarence Rockland, Brian Wilson. Brian, you've been on the job now for over a year?
Be about a year and a half now, yeah.
So you've landed in pretty exciting times here.
It's exciting times for sure. I'm glad I could be part of it.
You have some very special training in emergency response. So you bring a special amount of expertise to the situation, which is going to be evolving, obviously, as things are being built and prepared. I guess there's still a lot of planning to be done.
There's still a lot of planning to be done, so we're actively in the design phase now to build both stations, and we're looking forward to seeing shovels in the ground and looking forward to getting these facilities up and running, which will hopefully better train our firefighters and provide for a better space to house our equipment and our firefighters as a whole.
All right. Now, I was doing some reading preparing for this, and I understand that back in the 90s, when firefighters were first started to be given EMD responsibilities, they were a little reluctant, but since then they've come on board. And is this an extra load for firefighters these days?
We're talking specifically about emergency management and the emergency management responsibilities. I mean, at the end of the day, it falls naturally to an emergency services organization. And the reality is municipalities these days really only have one emergency services department that works for them, which is the fire department. Ambulance being an upper tier responsibility, and in our case, the OPD being a provincial responsibility. So the only emergency services department that the city of Clarence Rockland really has direct control over is fire. So it becomes a natural fit for emergency management as a whole. I don't know that it's all that different, you know, in terms of, it's just a different scale. So instead of fighting a house fire, we're now dealing with a large scale flood or a large ice storm, whatever the case may be. The challenge often for municipal fire departments is the balance between the desire to be what I will phrase as boots on the ground, as opposed to being in the emergency operations center. So sometimes it's a challenge for fire chiefs, particularly, who have a desire to be able to lead their men and women out at the actual emergency scene or scenes, as opposed to being back in the office. But at the end of the day, it is a logical transition, and it's the reality in smaller municipalities where often many people have to wear multiple hats in order to accomplish what the municipality needs and try and be mindful of budget.
All right. You sound very much like a bureaucrat, but you're a firefighter as well. And I have to tell you that for the average Joe on the street, and Joanne, we are in awe of what firefighters do. Ambulance workers, yes, we realize the incredible trauma and the horrible situations that they see, but firefighters, it's that multiplied exponentially. And I find it absolutely amazing that right now we're finally at the point where you can all work together and support each other, because really there's nothing else that can help keep you going, aside maybe from exercise and meditation.
I mean, it is a tight-knit family between police, fire, and paramedics, and we do work together regularly at a multitude of calls. And I think it's important to recognize, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, firefighters joined to fight fires. And the reality is the public's expectations have grown. We now expect that there are trained professionals that are going to come rescue me if I fall in the river, or my canoe capsizes, or I fall down a well, or I get stuck in a trench, or I have a medical emergency. And the end result then is we've got firefighters, and the public's expectation and ask of these firefighters has grown exponentially from what it was 30 or 40 years ago. So it is an evolving change for the fire service to adapt to the new reality of today, which is really the fire service needs to be that catch-all. We are we're the grown-up Boy Scouts. We need to be that catch-all and be the rescue technician for whatever emergencies may face our community.
Yeah. And good intentions are just not enough in these scary days and scary world.
Well, the reality is, with all of the legislative requirements today, we can't just rely on good-natured and good effort. We have to be able to train to meet these needs. It's no longer good enough to just say, well, we'll show up and do our best. There's an expectation not only from the public, but among our own staff to make sure that we're training them to meet whatever they may face. And that puts a lot of strain on our training people and those involved in training our firefighters and trying to make sure that we're as ready as we can be for our residents.
Yep. Speaking of ready, just as a point of levity, would you have hired that young man in France who climbed up that building to save that child?
Well, I think, there's a classic example of someone who epitomes what it is to be a firefighter, right? The selfless risk to self, to try and make someone else's life a little bit better or try and protect someone else's life. So, I don't know the individual, but certainly you see his heroism on tape, and there's someone who's truly epitomizing what it means to be a firefighter and what it means to put, others above your own.
And that's where I think that he's talking about himself and everybody else without actually mentioning it. That comes from experience. So thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for having joined us, and thank you for leading us through to this next phase of our development.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks.
And now, last but not least, is our mayor, Guy Desjardins, who, well, I guess at some point in the history of Clarence Rockland, this is going to be part of his legacy.
Yes, it's really nice to have two fire stations like this. It's another, let's say, feather to the hat, but a much needed thing, especially with the ambulance center next to them. We're going to double the capacity of ambulances here and in Bourget. A much needed service. We're getting bigger. We need more ambulances, and the way it was made over there, if one ambulance was gone, you only had one ambulance for the whole area. Now we're going to have 4 in here and 2 in Bourget, so much better.
And Ottawa's still going to keep trying to raid us, right?
Well, I don't want to comment on that because really it's not just Ottawa, it's the province that doesn't want to put their pants on and take a decision. They're the ones that change the rules.
Not that for no comment.
But our neighbors just going by the rules, and it's the province that changed the rules, and they shouldn't have. So we'll see with the elections.
Well, there is always going to be a need for emergency response in all shapes and sizes, and we have to be prepared. We know these are crazy times.
Yes, and when our neighbors need us, we should be there. Just a question of talking between each other. When we're there for our fire department, we get along very well with Ottawa. Our dispatch is from Ottawa. We need any help from the City of Ottawa for fire department. They're here. They come and help us at any time we need them. So I phoned Mr. Blais last week to invite him here because he's our neighbor. It's mostly from Cumberland that they come. So no, we get along very good. We had a great rapport with them, and we're going to keep it like that.
So you can always count on the little country cousin to come through.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you, country cousin.
No problem.
All the best.
Okay.